afternoon. We
Hey,
have
how
not.
are you?
Hey, Kennedy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great because that song always gets me pumped up. Let me tell you something, man. Listen, for those of you who are new to the show, if you don't listen to the intro, if you join in the middle, I need you to go all the way back. Run that thing from the beginning, okay? Just so you could get in your feelings for a second and vibe with us so you can get on the
Listen,
couch the right way.
behind the scenes, if y'all could see us getting our groove on, we are coming to you live. That's why we're sitting so close from New Orleans, Nolans. At the
Nolans.
we are at the where are we?
We are at the Nasi convention. You know
You can't
Nasi?
do acronyms. It's the National
I was going
Association for Health Services
executive.
Executives
I wanted
in
to
New
start with
Orleans.
Nasi.
And
Nasi.
and what had
Thank you.
happened is it's humid out here, so my hair started a little different. So, but we're gonna jump right on it. So, I think I shared with you, Kennedy, but I recently did a birth chart, and all my life, I
Oh my
just
love.
I knew myself as a Leo. I'm a Leo. That's who I am. And then recently, I found there's this whole birth chart thing. So peep this out. So, in your date of birth, we all know as
Mhm.
your sun is the sign that you're used to, and that typically there's going to be some people out there who know better than me, so blame the internet. So my understanding is that your sun is your 11th house. At least it is for me. And apparently there's I think 12 houses. So the sun, which is Leo for me, is my 11th house. And my moon, there's a moon, we have a moon. It rules your emotions, your mood, your feelings. It's what reflects your personality when you're alone and mostly comfortable. So you're your most comfortable
Okay.
self. And that's your 10th house. Okay. But wait for it, there's more. So there's this ascendant, or it's also called rising, which is it's your native self, your physical body, your character, your appearance, it's your personality, your build. It's the first thing people see about you. And that's the first house. So it's the first thing you see. And it's often referred to as a mask.
Hmm.
Yeah, you see what I did there?
I
You see what I
like
did
that. I
there?
like that. I
So
like
That
that.
my mask. So just to give you a little bit about me, and you guys have to do your birth chart. So as a Leo, we're dominant. We rule all the zodiacs. Tell me different. Nope. Uh, Moon, I am a Cancer, and I really don't know what that means. As a my ascendant, my rising, I am a Virgo, and I come across apparently precise, diligent, peace seeking, and organized. I seem a bit too attached to the work, details, and pursuit of perfection, which means sometimes I seem a bit boring. That's my first house. I know. So, anyway, my
Hmm.
mask needs to come off because that is not it. That is not
That's
it.
definitely not you. That's the wrong mask. There's nothing that I can think of that is more opposite of describing who you are than the word boring.
Listen, I know these are facts.
Well,
And as I've gotten older, I think with age, we tend to take our mask off more and bring more of our authentic self in all settings. I just remember early in my career when I would sit in the boardroom in my mid 20s, I was sitting in a boardroom. Thank you, Wade Overgard. And I'm sitting in this boardroom and I have my corporate speak where you use all your big thesaurus, Stanford
hmm
and Harvard words. And then as I've gotten older, my mask, I thought actually my mask was completely off, but more on that later.
mm.
So what are these masks? What does it mean? And why do we feel compelled to don such masks? And we're in New Orleans. I felt like
Oh,
we should have had those Mardi
we
Gras
should have
masks.
had some Mardi Gras masks,
Wait
but
a minute. First of all, I just need y'all to stop bragging about the fact that you're in New Orleans because I'm not there with you.
you
Just
mean
for
we're in New
clarity's
Orleans?
sake.
But where are you, Ken? Not New
Child,
Orleans.
if I told you, I'd have to kill you. It is not good. That's all. And I
Okay.
would prefer to be in New Orleans with the two of you.
It's all right. Next
Yes.
time. Next time. But I remember, Rob, when we started having this conversation, and I said, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to wear Spanx today.
And that's how we got
And
here.
that's how we
That's how we got to mask.
and that's how we got here. And really it was, now think about those Spanx. I have them on today. I'm not gonna lie to you. However, I woke up that morning and I said, I don't want to put on the Spanx. I don't want to put on the added. I want what you see is what you get. I want to just come as I am. I want to be able to breathe and be unconstricted. And that really, when you think about it, what are your Spanx that you're putting on? Right? Did you put on your Spanx today? And what are you trying to hide,
Mm.
right? Or
Mm.
what are you trying to showcase that would not already normally exist in a comfortable way
Mm.
by putting on those Spanx, which
Mm.
is how what was birthed our topic to today, which is, in case you hadn't gotten it by this point, is about mask. What mask are you wearing? What Spanx do you have on today? When is it that you are, if you're putting on these masks and these things, are you really showing up as you? Or do you think for some reason it's okay to show up as something else, or you're expected to be and to show up and to stand out as something else, and that's what people are seeking?
Hmm.
So um that really, and that speaks to my heart and my core in so many in so many different ways.
Well, when you
Be-
think about Spanx, Gigi, it's like your Spanx help you fit into that one dress that we all have that we really want to wear, right? And it's sort of like this perception of what your mask is. What box are you trying to fit into with the mask that you have on in that moment, right?
that part.
Yeah. I'm going to love this episode. I want us to dive right on. I got so much to talk about.
All right, well, let's get into it. Let's get it. So Kennedy, kick us off.
So y'all know I'm the queen of Spanx because a girl does not want to be on that stage with her cinnamon roll hanging out, right? So listen, I run 3 miles a day. I work out all the time, but your girl still has the COVID-19. So yes, I jump on in the morning, throw my Spanx on, not because I'm trying to fit into a box, but because I do want to wear that cute dress and be my best self in that dress, right? So I think there's also this dynamic between how often do you put a mask on to build yourself up, and um, what is the fine line between that and putting the mask on to be accepted to everyone else and at the rooms that you are moving in. And I think that is where we get into trouble with the idea of having a mask. Now, how this shows up to me in the workplace is really about, we've had a lot of grace given since we've been working remotely, and people call into their teams meetings and they've got t-shirts on, and, no one's dressed up in suits anymore. But when you think about your career and sitting in those boardrooms, I know that I've been told anyway, what you wear in those boardrooms have a lot to do with your executive presence
Mm.
and can determine your upward mobility. And I think some of us put a mask on, i.e., the mask is not wearing what we thought we should wear that day, wearing what we think is acceptable, so that we can fit into the box of executive presence. So I need y'all to break this down for me, because let me tell you what happened. I wore Louboutins to work one day, and I was told, because I work for a nonprofit organization, that it appeared that I did not support the mission by wearing very expensive shoes. And I should never wear those again, because I want to make sure that I have executive presence so that I can continue to grow in my career at this said organization. Y'all,
So
please tell me what I have to
That was
do with
right,
that was jealousy. That
right.
was
Because the
jealousy.
other thing I was going to say is,
That's what I think.
be mindful of who's giving you this feedback. I think that is my biggest learning about this mask, right? Who's giving you the feedback about what you should and should not, what's acceptable and
Yeah.
not? Because I will tell you right now, what color lipstick do I have on, Robin? Can you see it?
It's
What color?
red.
Is it red?
Mhm.
Is it bright red?
Mine is.
Let me tell you why. Because one of the first things that I was taught when I was in a junior position, I was told, don't show up at work with red lipstick on. It tells a story about you. and that you won't be taken seriously and you'll be looked at a particular way, especially as a woman, if you show up in red lipstick. I was also told, and make sure at least 2 times out of the week you're wearing a skirt.
We were having this conversation in the hallway at Spencer Stewart, and one of my colleagues was talking about how, wow, it was early 90s. I think she was working in New York, and women just did not wear pants to the office. I mean, they wear skirts, so they didn't wear pants to the office.
Right.
I, I I was working in the early 90s, and I don't remember that. I don't remember a lot of things, but I don't remember that. But I think about when we talk about the thing of executive presence, those two words together just annoy me a lot for many different reasons, because there's a perception and a model of what that looks like, what that acts like, what that talks like, that sort of thing. And I think about this conference that we're in, and the moment that this morning when we walked in to the room, I'm not used to seeing men in suit and ties anymore. With COVID and then leading innovation, you see more tennis shoes and jeans. But I'm just not even on calls with executives, they're wearing either a collared shirt. I've seen sweatshirts. I don't think outside of Mark Zuckerberg testifying in front of Congress, I don't think he's ever worn a suit, maybe at his wedding. And so I think, particularly in the land of COVID, because we talk about masks, and there's a bit of the uniform that you wear at work, and I think that's a whole other situation, and because that is supposed to signify something. Because you wear a suit, you're fancy. You have a fancy title. You make big decisions. And in the land of COVID, I think it's changed a little bit. And particularly when we think about masks again are the outside perception of us. So if you're walking in with the red bottom shoes and the hair done up and the car, and then you're on video and we can see the squalor behind you, or just it doesn't match up. There's the outward again. Many of us have that mask, that our first house sign, our rising, and that we don't bring into work, particularly at a time where you were told to bring your authentic self to work.
Now, can we talk about
work? But let's talk about this, because I will tell you, there's an offsite that's going on this week, and they said, okay, well, people, this is the first time people were convening in person. And so they said, well, okay, business casual. And that even has changed. What does that mean? So someone Googled business casual. For women, it said business casual means that they're in a skirt.
What? Look.
So again, who are you listening to?
I got on shiny pants.
Who are you listening to? What's the, and what's the so what? And I think it's such a beautiful thing now, because people are choosing their mask.
Yeah.
And I think that the tide is changing, because wear your shiny pants. You have earned. That's my point.
Oh, I thought you said wear as in
no.
W-H.
I'm saying wear WEAR.
Wear. They're right here. You just synced them with your good eyes.
I'm saying wear your shiny pants.
Yeah.
Wear your red lipstick. Wear your Louis Vuittons, because why not?
Will that, do you think, then stifle your career?
No, absolutely not. I think that the idea here is that we are becoming, at least I pray, a more inclusive environment, both professionally and personally, in many different realms, right? We all sit on boards where there are organizations where we're donating our time to do something great in the community. And in that space, we see more inclusivity there. We're all executives trying to make a difference in a healthcare industry, and we have seen inclusivity there as well. And so I think that the things that we once believed because someone told us they were part of this construct of executive presence, I think those things have changed, and it's enabled people to be able to take their masks off, right? Now, I want to switch gears a little bit, because the mask that I'm concerned about most has nothing to do with executive presence, has nothing to do with your Louboutins or your red lipstick, but it is the mask that people wear to hide vulnerabilities and emotions and or the things that they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, those are the masks that have the potential to really have the greatest impact on life, right? And in some cases, it's life or death.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about Chesley Christ, and I almost can't even say her name without my tears like welling up in my eyes. When I think about her, I had the privilege of knowing her personally and having conversation with her about multiple things, faith being one of them. And she was just a dynamic and wonderful individual. And if you look at her life from the outside looking in, the mask fits into a lot of boxes, right? She's an correspondent, great television personality. She's a law school graduate, the top of her firm, in North Carolina, and Miss USA, right? She appears, the mask appears to have it all, to be it all, to be able to handle it all. And yet, and still, the things that she suffered with personally behind the mask are the things that eventually led to her no longer being with us. And for me, I care about that part. I am so over the mask that everyone wants to see because I feel like that's what society is. Society tells you what mask to put on, they tell you what mask is acceptable. And that is what people try to do, even while covering up the most vulnerable and painful parts of themselves. And so they say, bring your whole self to everything you do, not just work. But by the way, when you bring in your whole self, do it in a way that we want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's just, I have to call BS on it because we are hurting people by doing that and not allowing them to fully step into who they were created to be.
Well, there are two things I just have to, and I that resonates for so many reasons. But when you started this, you said, things are changing, right? And so the mask and people are more, and I would say not everywhere.
Right.
It's not. But what is changing is us as individuals. And so, whereas there was a time where, no, this is what the status quo is, this is what you shall do, this is the mask that you have to put on, you have to show up, right? I'm crying, I'm dying on the inside, but I have to show up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? I don't understand this. I don't feel like I should be in this room. I don't deserve to be in this room, but I have to show up, right? Whatever that mask is that you're wearing. But guess what? Right now, I can choose to not be in a place that doesn't support me and allow me to show up however it is that I want to
Mm-hmm.
show up. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's where the difference is. That now people have to realize that it's a choice now. And there are places that will love you, embrace you, celebrate you for exactly who you are. And you don't have to put on that mask. You don't have to do those things. And you can show up being you.
Well, and it's good.
I was just going to ask a question because that triggered something that happened in my career a couple of years ago. But my question was going to be, have you ever felt like you didn't put on a mask and then in retrospect, you wish you would have? I'll give you an example, right?
Yes.
So I lost my father, as you both know, and I came back to work maybe a little too soon. And I was very emotional about the fact that the most important person that raised me, loved me, and was my biggest supporter in the world was no longer here. Right. And in some days, I questioned whether or not I just didn't know how life was going to be after losing him. And so I was very emotional. And I think there was a meeting and somebody said one thing and it made me think about my dad. And then there was a song that came on in an offsite and I left the room because I was crying and I just didn't want to do that in front of everybody else. And even still, after I left and did not have this emotional outpouring of sadness in front of everyone else, I still was told by the senior leader in the room that I'm too emotional and that is not going to be well for my career. I'm going to have to learn how to control that and used executive presence again as the excuse. So when I look at that, I feel like well, maybe I should have stuffed my feelings down in that moment. And maybe I should have put the mask on that they wanted me to wear in that moment, but I just didn't have it in me. So, my question for you guys is, have you ever gone through a situation where you didn't put the mask on and you regretted it later?
No.
Mhm.
That hasn't been there are a few rare instances in life where I have regret in the moment, like, oh man, I wish I'd done that. But each of those have led me to where I am, and I've learned from them. Um, and so I take me everywhere I go. It's just a lot easier for me to be me. And what I think when you were talking about this particular instance with that individual, I'm not going to use the leader word for
Mhm.
someone who does not demonstrate leadership qualities just because you have the title, and doesn't mean you have the anyway. So there are often times where we attempt to take our mask on while someone else is throwing one in our face. And I think that is when we're talking about the executive presence, as well as just showing up as a woman, person of color, tall, and the number of times I've been, oh, what team did you play basketball for? Have you seen me dribble a ball? I'm sure you can sing. I don't even sing in the shower. My voice is that offensive. There are just sometimes masks. So the perception
Mhm.
again is that you see someone, or even in that dressing the part, that you make up a lot of things about them. And so I don't have the regret. Sure, if I think back 20s, 30s, that sort of thing, probably, but in more recent years of my memory, I don't have those regrets because those are learnings. And now I feel a sense of responsibility and obligation to change mindsets and change the conversations happening in the boardrooms, happening in the C-suite with folks that I meet. I purposely want to challenge those assumptions. It's why I'm wearing fancy pants at a business. This was not the business casual one. This was business attire
Mhm.
at a business conference. First of all, that's not me. I don't wear the pantsuit anymore. And I wear fancy pants that shine. So I think,
Right.
while we might be attempting to take one mask off, someone else has it on, that sometimes we don't have awareness that it's even on.
So, we talk about all of these different factors, and I think at the end of us coming together, we always talk about what is your do something. What is it that you need to do as a result of anything that we talked about, and what's the challenge to your life, to your soul, to your presence, to all of those things. Um, we are not one-dimensional creatures. We are not. My story is beyond the me that you interact with. So sometimes I may choose to have on a different mask. My mask may be my hair. One day it's short and blonde. The next day it's to the floor and curly. And am I trying to put on a mask? No, that's who you choose. That's who you are meeting on that day, because that is what I'm feeling. That is who I'm showing up as. So I would say challenge the status quo. Challenge it. Because guess what? There are 57 different iterations of EJ that can show up today. Am I putting on airs or am I hiding something because you happen to meet corporate EJ today?
Oh Lord.
Right? Did you hear? Right? That doesn't mean that's not me. That's the me today. And I choose, because there's a power in me being corporate EJ. If I want to be sister girl EJ, if I want to be Nija babe EJ, but I am choosing to challenge the status quo. So I'm going to challenge you. Don't follow the old norms. Choose ye this day who you're going to serve, and challenge the assumptions as to why. We talked about a whole bunch of reasons as to why we put the mask on, why it's important, why we need to figure out what your why is. And if it's because you're really truly trying to cover or hide yourself, I challenge you to take it off. Be free. Breathe. Take the Spanx off. I'm not taking them off today because they're really cute in what I have on, but take them off. Take them off. Take them off.
Oh, Lord. All right.
Can I challenge one more thing that I know
Please.
y'all gonna tell me, but
Mhm.
I have to say this. I have to. For all of the women of color, this is for you. I want you to challenge the mask of the strong woman. I think that mask has become detrimental,
Mm.
and it implies that strength and vulnerability are mutually exclusive,
Mhm.
and they are not. You can be vulnerable and strong. And sometimes it takes the strength that you have within you to show your vulnerability and ask for help. And so I want us, women of color, because this is a thing that we talk about in communities of color all the time. And we use it as an excuse to accept the weight of the world on our shoulders. And we put the mask on of strong woman and we go out into this world and bear everyone's issues and try to solve the entire world's issues without
Mhm.
really tending to our own stuff.
Talk
I
about it.
want I want you to challenge that. Do I have to be the strong woman today? And who is that benefiting? And what am I denying of myself in order to have that mask right now? I need that to be challenged so that we can all live healthier and happier lives.
And who are you damaging by doing that? Because someone is looking to you as their role and their guidepost. And if that's what you're bringing, that's what they think success and leadership and being on top looks like. So who are you hurting?
Yeah, and I think from the strong woman perspective, I think strength is shown in vulnerability. And to your point of challenging that notion that just because I'm smiling and shoulders up, and again, we can see in the this COVID world and we still are in COVID, that we're waist up, yeah, but underneath there could be a whole situation happening under there. And so challenging, I love that ad. I thought you were going to steal my thunder. You almost started going there with some of the final
Mhm.
thoughts that we have. So thank you all. I think this has been a conversation that we should continue,
Yes.
and one that we should continue to challenge others, ourselves, each other. And when I think about where we are, we're here at a healthcare conference. And earlier this morning, there was a panel that Spencer Stewart led. Yes, I have no shame.
Lord.
And there was a CEO from Humana. She oversees their Medicaid and community programs. She's actually a sorority sister of ours, and ours, not
I
yours.
was like, theirs,
And
theirs.
she made this comment when asked the question around other things that we can and should be doing. It led to her sharing her personal story, and I know we each have one of
Mhm.
why we are in this healthcare industry. And it's because, unfortunately, this is October, so Breast Cancer Awareness
Mhm.
Month. I have a mother and an aunt who both survived. My mother survived. My aunt had the popular triple negative that impacts more women of color, particularly Black women. So this is a health month.
Mhm.
And so what we want to make sure that we do is that we, regardless of when we show up and how we show up in a healthcare setting, there's a mask that's placed on us.
Mhm.
And as your personal advocate, you must know that so that there is a difference between life or death in some instances. And I want people to know your power of your voice as your personal advocate and ensure that you are challenging, asking questions. You can contact any one of us because we
Mhm.
we know the words to say. But as we think about this month, as we think about the conference that we're
Mhm.
in, I'd be remiss in not sharing that when we think about the mask that people see as a woman, as a mother, as
Mhm.
a person of color, as going to a certain zip code or having a certain job, whatever that might be, have that awareness and make sure you're challenging that everywhere,
Mhm.
anytime you show up. So I thank you. It's good seeing you. and we're gonna roll that beautiful bean.